President Donald Trump has repeatedly criticized the international deal reached in 2015 to halt Iran's nuclear program. This week at the White House was no different.
It's insane, it's ridiculous, it should have never been made.
Mr. Trump bristled at a reporter's comment that Iran may be ready to restart its nuclear program.
They're not going to be restarting anything. They restart it, they're going to have big problems, bigger than they've ever had before, and you can mark it down.
Trump's comments come as a May 12th deadline draws near. That's when U.S. sanctions against Iran will resume, unless Trump issues new waivers to suspend them. On VOA's Plugged In with Greta Van Susteren, U.S. Senator Robert Menendez said the Trump administration would be taking a major risk if it decided to reimpose sanctions.
Knowing how are they going to respond? What are we going to do? Are we going to slap back sanctions? Are we going to be alone and isolated? How does that make our security better at the end of the day?
Menendez says Iran must do more to increase transparency, including allowing inspectors to visit its military installations. But he says Washington must not act unilaterally if it wants Iran to change its behavior.
There is work to be done on the agreement, but when the Iranians say they're not going to renegotiate anything, that's because they believe that only the United States is going to be in opposition and walk away. They don't believe that the Europeans are going to walk away. They don't believe that Russia and China are going to walk away. So we cannot afford for them to splinter the coalition. We need to proselytize our allies to our side, use them against Iran, and then Iran will certainly come to the negotiating table because they'll understand that the consequences are much greater.
The Iran deadline comes as the White House works toward a U.S.-North Korea summit to rein in the North's nuclear program. This week, President Trump said North Korean leader Kim Jong Un has so far behaved openly and honorably. Mark Fitzpatrick, the former U.S. Deputy Assistant Secretary of State for Non-Proliferation, says the fact that Washington and Pyongyang are talking is progress.
Now, there are a lot of potential pitfalls here. It could all go very badly, and we could be back in that talking about war. But for the time being, we're talking about verification and denuclearization and the definitions.
Tarun Chhabra is with the Brookings Institution.
I think the big concern that I have and that many others have is what President Trump is willing to sell out for a deal, and whether that includes the troop presence that we have.
The world will also be watching another set of talks this week when the North Korean leader meets his South Korean counterpart in Panmunjom, a small village located in the demilitarized zone, for the first inter-Korean summit in more than a decade. Robert Raffaele, VOA News, Washington.